The limited money that Trump has so far raised during his incipient general election campaign has gone to a number of different shady sources, we're finding out through FEC filings. But one in particular is crying out for an explanation, and media sources and reporters have been scrambling all day to figure out what is going on with this. So the Trump campaign paid $35,000 for web advertising to something called Draper Sterling.
Oh, come on, dude.
Now, I don't watch Mad Men, but people tell me that that's a suspicious name.
Yeah. Who names their company after something obviously fictional? Why don't you just name it Red Flag?
Yeah. No, I have
Red Flag Incorporated.
Records.
You might want to look into this company. Right. It's like running a security company and calling it the Unsullied.
Red Herring Savings and Loan. No, that's a stupid idea.
Because if you're gonna charge people for political campaigns using that company, it's gonna go into official filings. And when it does, we all get to look through it. When we see Draper Sterling, we go, wait a minute, that's a fictional company out of Mad Men. I should look further.
We should. And so people have. And it turns out that it is actually a real company, sort of. It's a registered company, which makes you again wonder why you wouldn't just name it Two Trees Advertising. Make up a name. Just look at an object in your room and call it that. Call it Milk-Bone Advertising.
Shiny Desk Advertising. We're here to serve you guys.
Yeah, the shiniest ads delivered to your desk. And so people have been trying to track it down. They found the place where it's registered, and it's in a high rise. It looks like this, actually. They have a picture of it. Oh, sorry, that's just a little house in Londonderry, New Hampshire. So Judd Legum tracked that down. This is the address listed. And so Draper Sterling was registered with the state in New Hampshire in March to a guy named John Adkins, who co-founded a medical device company called Xenotherapeutics with Paul Holzer, a Dartmouth medical student. Holzer used Adkins' home address for another payment from the Trump campaign back in May. So there's these two individuals who are sort of tied in with Republican strategy, who are apparently making money that's going directly to their home. Suspiciously, at the same time, Londonderry is next to Windham, where Trump's freshly fired campaign manager Corey Lewandowski is based. So just one town over, suspiciously, in New Hampshire, which we know is ground zero for Trumpdom across America. Suspiciously, Lewandowski lives right next door. Weird how that works out.
We still want the money, Lewandowski.
We thought you'd be happy with that.
Yes, okay. So now, we then find out that the Trump campaign is doing an audit of the money that Corey Lewandowski spent. Uh-oh. Now, this could have been worse. It was originally reported before we found out about the Holster and all the other guys who are doing shenanigans. People were wondering, hey, is this Lewandowski's just sending it to his aunt in New Hampshire? Yeah. Now, that does not appear to be the case. So it's these other shady guys. But they're going to have to figure out how to explain the money that was spent. Mm-hmm. And right now, it doesn't look that good.
It doesn't look that good, yeah. Yeah, and we've got a little bit more money info on some of the other expenses. But again, like as these weird, unnecessary, totally unnecessary scandals keep popping up, just be reminded, this is the guy who said he knows how to manage people. He knows how to choose people. He is the natural leader who has managed groups of people. He can't even manage his tiny there are almost as many people in this room as we're filming as work for his campaign, and he can't even manage that. You can pack him into one VW bus, and he can't actually manage it. Now, people also went to the house and talked to some of the people there. Some of them denied ever having heard of the Draper Sterling. Others said, I know what it is, but I'm not saying anything about it, which was, of course, suspicious. And then if we can jump ahead, some of the other expenses, unless you still want to talk about Draper Sterling.
I do want to say one more thing. There was one, and Judd Legum at ThinkProgress did a great job on this investigating. So there was one expenditure that was very hard to explain. So now, look, give them an opportunity. Let's see if they can figure out how they theoretically spent that money. But again, if you're going to do these shenanigans, and now people are saying Holster has run a couple of these things, let's look into it. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out what they did and didn't do, right? But don't name it after a fictional group that's obviously going to create a red flag. I mean, I don't want to do a public service announcement for a scam artist.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, when they were reached, they said, "No, I'm sorry, you got our last name wrong. It's the Lannisters, and don't worry, we always pay our debts." So
I was literally just thinking, best case scenario, it turns out he's a nerd who loves Mad Men. Like, I would start up like Knights of the Vale Media or something. Maybe he's just a dork.
Right. But as you see, this is not an isolated incident with the Trump campaign, because, John, tell us where some of those expenses might be going otherwise.
Exactly. Now, this is a little bit less suspicious than it's going to seem at first, but it does still give you an idea of how Trump is running this thing. And a lot of people are starting to think that this entire campaign might simply be like a graft opportunity, a con opportunity. So Trump spent over $400,000 to rent out Mar-a-Lago, his Palm Beach club, almost $400,000 to his fleet of private jets, $30,000 at his international golf club, $35,000 at his national golf club, which shows that he is more focused on America than the rest of the world. So that's consistent with his philosophy. And $72,000 in rent on Trump Tower. Now, after looking into this, you do actually have to pay if you use your own resources. You can't simply take advantage of what you already have. And yet, he is apparently choosing to put all this money into his own properties, his own businesses, the ones that haven't yet gone bankrupt. And considering the fact that a lot of the money that he donated to his campaign was actually in the form of loans, and someday could be paid for by regular donations, in the end, this could end up simply having been a multi-million-dollar stimulus package for his businesses.
So understand, he loans out the $45 million to his campaign, but $6 million of that goes into Trump properties, including handing out Trump water at events, okay, and then charging the campaign for it, which then will come back. Remember, this is an old trick. Sarah Palin starts her own PAC and then buys all of her own books through the PAC, and then she keeps the money for the books.
Amazing.
And then the people who donated to the PAC are out their money, and it didn't really help anyone except Sarah Palin, who just funneled the money back into her own pocket. So this is an old trick. And so at some point, Trump's plan is to retire that debt by going to donors and saying, hey, I'm your candidate now. I'm your Republican candidate. Make sure you finance my campaign. Go back, and candidates do this all the time, and repay that loan, right? And the campaign repays it to Donald Trump, but they already spent the $6 million on Donald Trump.
Oh, interesting how that works out.
Yeah. And to be,
maybe he does know a little bit about business.
Yeah. No, he knows about scams. He knows how to
about scams.
Move the money around until it's in his own pocket.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, look, so number one, as John pointed out, you do have to charge wherever you go. And if I have my property or some other guy's property, I'm more likely to use my property. I get it. If I was one of their donors, one of their very few donors, though, I would do a heavy audit to make sure they were paying the fair market price.
Fair amount, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't take his word on it. And to be fair to Lewandowski, yes, that questionable Draper Sterling is close to his hometown, but we don't yet know if any money got funneled back to him. I would be surprised if anyone else picked Draper Sterling. That would be a really interesting coincidence. But just the fact that he picked Draper Sterling to do maybe ads for them, maybe not, doesn't mean that the money got funneled back to him. Again, it requires further investigation.
Yeah.
And you'll have to see if Draper Sterling actually did any ads.
Exactly. Reporters have reached out to Lewandowski saying this seems unethical, at least on its surface, and he responded saying, that's just like your opinion, man. I'm joking. I barely remember that movie. Anyway,
no, that was good. Excellent
thank you.
Lebowski quote there.
Thank
Nicely done.